I'd like to talk to you today. Good morning. Good morning. I'd like to talk to you today about taking chances and taking advice. Okay. Just a little short story about buying a property. Many years ago, I had a girlfriend, became a long time partner, but when we met, I was working in finance, and she was saving to buy a house. She was 24 at the time, I think 24 at the time, and we got to talking about buying property. I was living I had bought a beautiful apartment overlooking the Lane Cove National Park. Had wonderful big cathedral ceilings and sunken lounge room and several bathrooms, and was just a beautiful place. At least it was for me. I loved it. And she was saying to me that she would like to buy a house, or she was saving to buy a property by the time she turned 30. She wanted to have enough deposit together by the time she turned 30 to buy a property. And I said to her, "How much do you have now?" And she said $5,000. Now, $5,000 these days is not a lot of money if you want to buy a property. But this was back in 1986, somewhere around there, maybe 1987. And I said to her, "Well, with $5,000, why don't you go and buy one now?" And she said, I can't afford it, And I said, "Well, why don't we make a list from the newspaper and go out on Saturday and have a look at some of the places that maybe you could buy?" So we did that. On Saturday we drove around, went down to Parramatta, and found a very nice large 2-bedroom unit, nice bathroom. Wasn't all that modern, but it was very clean, very solid, had a big carport underneath it. And it was $50,000. And I said to her, "Why don't you buy that?" And she said, "I can't afford it. Where am I going to get $45,000? And I said, "You don't need $45,000. I said to her, "What you need is $129 per week. Can you afford $129 per week?" And she said, "Oh, yeah." She said, I can afford that. I'm paying that in rent." So I said, "Well, if you go to the bank and get a loan for $45,000, that's what it's going to cost you." So she put a deposit on the apartment, and she went to the bank to get a loan. And they gave her a loan, no problem at all. She had a good job. She was working for Toshiba International at the time as a receptionist, and had been there for a number of years and loved her job. And so she bought the property. She moved into it and rented the other room out to a friend of hers. So she had more money coming in than she knew what to do with it. So a little while later, probably about 6 months later, she actually moved in with me. So then she rented out the whole apartment, which was more than paying for itself. And she came to me a little while later and she said to me, "I've saved some more money. Can you tell me what I should do with it? Where should I invest it?" And I said to her, "Why don't you pay it off your house or your apartment?" And she said, "What good would that do me?" And I said, "Well, rather than me tell you, go to your bank manager and ask him, and he'll tell you what difference it'll make." So the next day at lunchtime, she went to the bank manager, and she came home all excited that evening. And she said, "The bank manager told me that if I put this $3,000 off my loan, it would knock my loan down from 25 years to 17 years. Right? And she said, "That's like 8 years off the loan for one $3,000 deposit." And I said to him, "Yeah." I said, "It's exciting, isn't it? Did you ask him what would happen if you increased your payments?" And she said, "Yes, I asked him what would happen if I put in another $100 a week." And he said it would increase it, from memory, I think she said it would increase it down to 13 years. So that's what she did. But the rent that she was getting from the apartment by this stage was basically paying for it. So she started socking her wages into the property and paying it off. She doubled the payments. And when she was about to turn 30, which was the time she had a goal to have enough money to put as a deposit on a house, she had one payment to make to pay it off. And I said to her, well, as a birthday present, I'll pay it off for you. She said, no. She said, I've done it all on my own now. I want to make the last payment myself, which she did. So by the time she was 30, when she had the goal of having a deposit to put on a block of land she was going to buy, she then owned an apartment outright. Very nice apartment, walked to the station, very handy position, quiet. Yeah. The story doesn't end there. One of the most interesting facts of this was, she said, my deeds are at the bank. What should I do with them? And I said to her, well, go to the bank and pick them up. So the next day she went along to the bank manager and she said to him, I've paid off my loan. I'd like to pick up my deeds. And he said, yep, no problem. So he went in and got her deeds for her, came out, gave her a form to sign that she had to sign and to get them back. She signed it. He looked at the form and he looked at the deeds and he said, your signature hasn't changed very much at all. And she said, no, it's only been 6 years and I've paid it off. And she said, now I would like to speak to you about getting a loan for another one. And he said, yes, no problem at all. But by then the prices had gone up. The apartment that she had bought for $50,000 was then worth about $135,000. And so, of course, were other properties around the area that she wanted to buy. She didn't have much of a deposit left because she'd used the last part to pay it off, so she would have been borrowing 100% or could have saved a few thousand over the next few months before she bought it. So the bank manager started writing down her details, listed her income and assets and liabilities, etc. She didn't have much. She had the apartment owned outright and a car, a little bit of furniture, nothing much else. The bank manager looked at it and said to her, you can't afford it. Now this is a man who was supposed to know about finance. This is a man who not runs a bank, but certainly runs a branch of a bank, who should have some idea about assessing people and their ability to do what they say and their ability to pay back a loan. Somebody who had paid back a loan in 6 years, he was telling them, you can't afford to buy another property, even though she would have had effectively 50% equity over the two properties. He said, are you married? And she said, no. And he said, oh, well, the best thing you can do is probably go and find a man and get married. Wow. I'll leave it to your imagination about how that went down. But it didn't go down very well. She now owns a number of properties and is very self-sufficient. We are not together anymore. We were together for a very long time, parted ways, and are still very good friends. The point of the story is, if you need to get advice about something, make sure you get advice about people who do know what they're talking about, not the people who are supposed to know what they're talking about. Over the years, I have known many, many accountants. Most of them all have very nice houses, and they have reasonably good retirement funds. But besides that, the vast majority of them have nothing at all in their life, finances. They play strictly by the rules that they have been taught, and they are comfortable, but they will never be wealthy because they don't take risks. If you want to be successful in life, you must take risks and take advice from people who know what they're talking about, not people who think they know what they're talking about. That's today's little lesson in life. Hope you enjoyed it. See you again next time.